Welcome back to another edition of the Educational AD Podcast. We couldn't do these without the incredible support of our sponsors, and we want to start by saying thank you to all of them. First, thanks to our diamond sponsor, Varsity Brands, including BSN, Varsity Spirit, and Herff Jones. Varsity Brands, elevating student experiences in sport, spirit, and achievement. We also want to thank our platinum sponsors, including Ephesus Lighting, innovating a brighter future at every level. Gilman Gear, always a step ahead. Camp Mobile, where teams communicate better. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. And Vital Signs, bring student achievements to life. Thanks to all of our great sponsors. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest today is Dan Schuster. Dan is a certified master athletic administrator, and he's the director of educational services for the National Federation of High Schools. Dan, welcome to the podcast.
Jake, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
We're excited to have someone with a national profile on the show today. Well, as you know, the life of an athletic director is very busy these days, and so we're going to jump right into it. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up and went to school and college, and how your love of sports led to this position at the national office.
Yeah, so I'm originally from the northern part of Indiana, small town, Mishawaka, Indiana. It's about 15, 20 minutes east of the University of Notre Dame. Participated in athletics my entire life. I was a hockey player in high school. It's a club sport here in Indiana, but played high school varsity baseball. Actually participated in a lot of different sports growing up, whether it was football, basketball, ran some track. So multi-sport athletes, it's really interesting because, growing up playing, because of Notre Dame is really how I was able to step on a sheet of ice and play hockey. And that was obviously a big part of my life, and it really opened doors for me, even at the NFHS in becoming a national interpreter for the sport of hockey. So, it's amazing of our experiences and how they make us into what we end up being. So, I was very fortunate to have a lot of great people around me, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. But I went to Mishawaka High School, ended up going to Indiana University, where I got my bachelor's degree in sport communication, which had sport marketing and management background with a telecommunications minor as well.
Wow.
And then got my master's in athletic administration. So and that was through Indiana University as well. I think it's one of those things for a lot of for particularly young people. I actually went with a master's degree and took an unpaid internship right after I got my master's degree, and it was with a media company in Indianapolis. And I really thought that's where I wanted to be, was Indianapolis, because of, just because it's really, at least informally, known as the amateur, the sports, capital of the world for amateur sports. And, a lot of groups are here, and this company was working with a lot of them, national junior colleges, NCAA, NFHS. And so I thought I'd take a shot at it, and lo and behold, was able to meet Tim Flannery at the NFHS, and the rest is history. I started working, pretty much with the NFHS after that summer. So very, very fortunate and privileged to be a part of such a great organization, and just have the opportunity to work with so many great people at the NIAAA, at state athletic associations across the country, athletic directors, associations across the country, some really unbelievable people that I have the pleasure of working with. So, it's an honor.
Wow, that's very cool, and I think a good lesson too. Those internships, student teaching experiences, GA. Oftentimes those really blossom into a full career. For those of our listeners who might not be familiar with all the things that NFHS does, why don't you talk real briefly about what they do, and then specifically what you do with NFHS?
Sure. I mean, most people always knew who the NFHS was because of its rules. And, no matter where you are in the country, if you have a set of rules in your back pocket, it has the NFHS logo on there. And so for many years, it was the officials. Oh, yeah, I know who the NFHS is. So we've been writing rules for many years, actually celebrated our 100th year as an organization last year. And been writing rules for many of those. And as you know, a lot of states have modifications of those rules, and that's that's okay. We know that we can't have one set of rules, but we do our very best to work with our state associations to have that majority of the rules that are the same and keep those consistent. So that's been something we've been doing for a very long time. More and more, we have been known for the NFHS Learning Center space. So we launched that in 2007. So that's our professional development platform. Really started out for coaches because we really saw that need as we started seeing more and more volunteer coaches, non-teacher coaches. The education has always been important, obviously, but when we had our coaches in the classroom, we knew that they understood the pedagogy. We knew that they knew how to teach and really engage with the kids, and they were with them all day. They were with them at school, and they knew them, and there was that relationship. And so when we started seeing less of the teacher coach and more of the volunteer coach, that's where it really highlighted the need for a ability to get this professional development out to the masses, to really change the culture of professional development. And so, we've had over 11.5 million people since 2007 take courses with us. So if you don't know us from a rule standpoint, you might know us from a learning center standpoint. And a few years after the learning center started, you might know us for the streaming platform that the NFHS network provided. And so, just the ability to, if you can't make it to the game, to be able to, and obviously, probably not a better time than right now, where we are very limited on games we can go to or how many people can be in the stands. But really doing what we can to tell our story about high school activities, high school sports and activities, and the life lessons that can be learned. And so those really are three of the bigger platforms that I think people would know who we are. But we work for our member state associations. So in Florida, the Florida High School Athletic Association; here in Indiana, the Indiana High School Athletic Association. So there's 51 different member state associations across the country, and we work for them. We serve them. We create programs and services for them, and that's really our mission and our purpose. And we've lived by that for 101 years and counting.
Well, I think that was a fantastic, explanation of what they do. And again, from a rule standpoint, it's not like y'all are sitting there in Indianapolis just pulling rules out of thin air. You work, directly with the sections and the officials committees for each sport. And from the professional education side, we're very blessed at my school. Almost all of our head coaches teacher work right on campus. And so we have that teacher coach relationship, but we do have some really great community coaches that did not have the training, and they all take the NFHS coaches courses every year. That's our requirement from FHSAA. But it's always neat for me as the AD. I'll have some of these coaches and they'll come up the first time they've taken the course and they say, gosh, I never knew. And it's, really neat to see them acknowledge, the need and the value for that type of coaches education. So you guys are doing a great job.
I appreciate that.
Well, you alluded to it briefly, but I'm going to go ahead and let you expand on it. In our profession, athletics and education, we always talk about the importance of leadership and mentoring. And I'm always curious, who were some of your mentors growing up, either teachers or coaches you had, or people that you've worked with or worked for? Whose voice do you hear in your head when you go to work each day?
Yeah, I think, that it's had a profound impact on me. So I don't have a photographic memory or even claim to have a great memory, but I can tell you this, that that has really shaped me. I was very fortunate with my parents who, really focused on, those foundations and my dad had always referred to the little things, right? It's the little things that make the big impact. And I feel like that's really, it's so true. Focus on those little things, whether you're talking about a 5-year-old fielding a ground ball or, whether you're talking about how you can improve the functionality of a website that millions of people are going to visit. It's really those small things that make a big difference. And so also just being humble, I feel like, my parents and my mother in particular really taught me. And, going, kind of getting into high school, it's been a very long time that I've known that I wanted to be in high school sports and activities. I was very fortunate to have an athletic director in my community that was a family friend. Actually, the late great John Danaher, who worked long time Indiana AD and was an NIAAA attendee at the conference, volunteered, and so he was my athletic director growing up, and I actually gave me an opportunity. And as a junior in high school, I worked in the athletic department. I officiated basketball and flag football games. Got really an understanding of what an introduction of the athletic department in a high school. And those kinds of opportunities are things that I really hope that kids are able to have and take advantage of. And that really shaped me. I had multiple athletic directors that I went to, and even in college, athletic director at my alma mater who came in my last year, Kirby Whitaker came in, and I just, hey, can I come help you? Can I just watch you? Can I shadow you? Can I ask you some questions? And of course, there's never an AD that's going to say, oh no, I don't need any help. And so, just really just diving in. And so really, those are mentors. Those are people that lended their hand and said, yeah, you can be a part of our program. You can help. And I did the same thing in college. AD in Bloomington, Indiana, Roland Fletcher was his name, and great man who just let me be around. And that really instilled in me, again, of helping others and being there to help mentor. And so just a big part of me and shaping me for being a part of high school athletics and what it meant to really be a true leader and a community leader.
Oh yeah. Again, you can't overemphasize the importance that those mentors have had on our lives. I got to ask you a dumb question. Bloomington, Indiana, that famous movie of my youth, Breaking Away, they still have that little 500 bike race?
Yeah, they didn't have it this year, obviously, but yeah, it's a bucket list event. It's a cool event. It's one of those things where you kind of got to see it to believe it. And there's it is a famous bike race, I will tell you that. And they're just going around a 400-meter cinder track, and it is high level competition. Let me tell you, there are, I mean, those college students, their whole year is revolved around that race, and it's an impressive event.
Yeah, very must have been very cool to see in person.
Yes.
We always like to have our guests share their journey with NIAAA. As a member of the National Certification Committee, obviously I'm pushing, get that, take those LTC courses, get your RAA, your CAA, your CMAA. Go ahead and share a little bit about, your journey, in that process of becoming, one of the elite certifications. The percentage of ADs in the United States is very low that have that CMAA. So you're part of that elite group. How did it happen?
Yeah, well, it kind of it's a good transition from our last conversation about mentors, because maybe my greatest mentor as far as my professional career is Tim Flannery, the former Ohio athletic director, former director of coach education at the NFHS. And so when I first started at the NFHS in 2008, he made sure that I knew about the NIAAA, and made sure that, he really instilled in me is that, look, we are going to be talking about professional development ourselves from a coach standpoint, but we always have to look at ourselves first. And so that's why we really, tell our athletic administrators that, the coaches need to see you walking the walk so that they can walk the walk, right? And so to me, I want to show my commitment to professional development. And so I started taking courses with the NIAAA, not too long after I started working at the NFHS, started learning about it. And I think, it's a really important thing to go in and take 501 and take 502, because you're actually learning about who is the NIAAA, who is the NFHS, what are the differences in the two organizations, because a lot of people really don't know. And thankfully, over the years, those courses have helped define the differences. But we always stress that ADs would go through the same coursework that they expect their coaches to go through. And most, a lot of our athletic administrators were coaches, so they 100% understand the shoes that those coaches are in. But the other thing, Jake, that I just to take a second on, you're talking about professional development, your involvement with the credentials committee, certification committee. One thing that we're not very good at, and I'm just gonna say it, we don't pat ourselves on the back very often as athletic administrators, as people in education, and there's reasons for that, right? I mean, we just don't do that. But I do think it's important that people, that we do celebrate each other, right? We need to do as much as we can to celebrate each other. And look, your show's doing that. It's highlighting, CMAAs, CAAs, RAAs across the country. We need to do more of that, because it's hard. It is challenging for us. We just don't do that very well, of celebrating ourselves. And again, but those letters are really important. I know that most likely your principal or your superintendent, they know that you're involved in this professional development, because I'm sure you've, whether it's receipts or whether it's a certificate that you let them see. But we need to communicate how important it is that we're going down this pathway of professional development. And so I think that's a thing that social media has allowed us to do a little bit more, is to certainly allow the NIAAA and the NFHS to highlight all of these wonderful people that we have coaching, young people, and all these wonderful people that we have as administrators. But those credentials mean something. And I think when the coaches see the ADs doing it, they want to get involved in their own professional development. And look, you know who's watching. The kids are watching all of this. They're seeing it. If they find out about those letters, I look back and I don't remember hearing about the NIAAA or the NFHS as a high school student, and that's okay. But I'll tell you, that's one of the things I remember though, is that I knew that my athletic administrator was involved at a higher level. That meant something to me in a way that I maybe didn't realize at the time, but I knew that it was happening. I knew that he was involved at a state level and a national level. And so it was pretty much as simple as that. But it's like, hey, we get better. We can get better. We need to get better. We have to get better. And so again, I really think these professional, platforms and pathways are critically important, because those students are watching, and guess who are the next set of coaches, the next set of ADs? They're watching. We want them to have this to be instilled in them, that professional development is not only something that they should do, but they want to do.
I really appreciate that perspective. Obviously you're preaching to the choir with me, but I think
Absolutely.
our listeners need to hear it too. Thanks so much. I'm curious, what was your CMAA project?
Well, to no surprise, it surrounded the NFHS Learning Center, and I got hired at the NFHS in 2008, and I was very fortunate to get again work with Tim Flannery, and I was able to have sort of an elevated assistant director position that I took in 2012, and where I was really truly his right-hand man. And I was able to really lead the project of upgrading our entire system. And so the platform that we all know today as the NFHS Learning Center, it was actually created at the beginning, in 2013. And so I kind of oversaw that most of the time. That was really my baby, and so I kind of oversaw most of that, and really talked about the benefits that the new platform would bring for coaches and for ADs. And it's always been that we really are trying to serve you as the athletic director, right? Because coach requirements are what they are, and those come from a lot of times the state association. They may come from the Department of Education, but it's really on your shoulders a lot of times to make sure that it happens. And so I think that's something that we've always tried to make it to where the tools within the learning center really help you, not only as the AD, but the coaches as well. So yeah, I did my project on that, and just really the upgrades. And I mean, it's amazing the technology that exists today, or in 2013, or even when we launched the original platform in 2007. We have to keep growing, just like we tell our coaches they need to continue growing, that we need to continue growing as administrators. Our platform and our coursework and curriculum have to do the same thing.
That's really very cool. Now I know the history behind that. Let's go and shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about COVID. With our other episodes, we've been talking with school ADs and district ADs and their response. And we've had guests from across the country. We've seen some states that are totally rescheduling their seasons, football in the spring, baseball in the fall. Other states are business as usual. We're going to play. What has, and I'm asking, so you can tell us, what has the NFHS done from a national standpoint with regard to COVID and, our high school sports programs?
Yeah, I really have to commend our sports medicine advisory committee because they came out with guidance back in May. So it's been several months that they came out with some original guidance, and This is a fluid situation. It's day to day. By the time, this episode comes out, it could be different. And we've known that every single day for the last, 5, 6 months. But really coming out with guidance for, in particular, our state associations, right? So they're going to be the ones that are going to have to, implement what it looks like in their state. And we know that it's not going to be something that a one size fits all. It's a very collaborative effort, as we know, between our governors, local health departments, and of course, our schools and school boards. They have to make the best decision for their community. But again, we were really stressing the idea of things have changed. It's different. We need to think about distancing. We need to think about what it looks like when we practice. So it's not going to be something where, hey, that's always the way we've done it. It's coming out with, again, that helpful guidance to start thinking a little differently. And so states have taken taken that guidance and they've adapted it, which is fine. That's really part of what we do, is we want to just push this information out, help states come up with something that works for them. And I think that's what really sparked me, Jake, was seeing that original guidance. Boy, I was just thinking on behalf of coaches across the country and ADs across the country, where it's like, I would love to have something in my hands that is a little bit more, for coaches of, hey, things are different, and like help me figure out what needs to be going through my head when I go to practice, or where do I start? I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to believe. I don't know. We don't know that much, and especially back in May, we don't know that much about this virus. What do we do? And so that was really how the COVID-19 for Coaches and Administrators course was born. Is we had a couple state associations say, hey, have we thought about doing something for coaches? And again, from the onset, I wanted to get something out to help. And so, it's like, we need to think about practice. Like, is it really that necessary that we're standing in a single file line right next to each other? We've got lots of space. Let's use it. When we can wear masks, let's think about it. Let's, we should be wearing them when we can. And so we tried to get something practical and really to the the same formula that we use for other courses. It's around that 20-minute range. And actually over 115,000 of those have been taken since June 29th, when we were able to launch it. So, it's one of those resources that I really, kind of describe it as, it's here when you need it, right? Because not everybody's able to participate right now, as you alluded to. I mean, 37 states, the last I checked, unless something changed this morning, 37 states have altered their schedule in some way. So you mentioned, we're going to have, some states, depending on their climate, they're going to be playing football, at the beginning of the year, next year, or, in the spring. So it's going to look different. We know that it's going to look different. But again, it's a resource it's there when you need it. And it's going to be something that, again, it's very fundamental. But I think it's just getting coaches and ADs to understand that it's different. And obviously ADs are working every day with this. They understand that. They know that it's never going to be the same. And you've had to do so much work ahead of this. And frankly, a lot of ADs don't even know if all this hard work and preparation they put into it, if they're even going to use it or need it. Because it just may not come to fruition because of, circumstances that are out of their control. But I think, like most things, it's just getting, again, programs to our constituents, and hopefully that it's there for them when they need it.
No, and again, I want to say thanks for everyone at your office for putting that document together. I think you did a great job. And again, there were things in it that, we took, followed to the letter. And there's a couple things that we tweaked a little bit. But getting it out there as a resource, I think was huge. Um, what are some of your, I know you're not in the office right now, but what are some of your favorite things about your job? Obviously, you're very passionate about it, but what are some of the 2 or 3 things you really enjoy about working for NFHS?
Well, you know, the individuals that I get to work with, it's it's a blessing because they're the best of the best from within our state association offices, within the state AD associations. And I guess I have to say too that I'm very fortunate in my position at the NFHS that I get to work with everyone. It's I mentioned before that one of my hats is ice hockey. And so it's one thing I could focus in on hockey, and I would know the hockey community really well, and I would know those administrators that are working with that sport. But with the NFHS Learning Center, I have the opportunity to work with, of course, all of our state associations, all the state ADs associations, the NIAAA, the great folks there, um, and again, because of our national conferences, that we have the NFHS summer meeting is one that, again, it's really for our membership. And so all of our state association folks are there. Well, a lot of them bring their board members and, get to meet a lot of those great people. The athletic directors conference that we co-host with the NIAAA, I mean, just the best of the best, the go-getters, the passionate, the experts of this profession. It's wonderful. I mean, to be better, you really need to put yourself around people like that. And so to work at the NFHS, where again, we have some really great people working there on behalf of over 19,000 high schools and 12 million participating students. It's humbling, and it's just one of those things where I really look at young people participating as it just really motivates all of us to be better. And sometimes that can be a challenge. So one thing I'd tell you about my position is I don't see kids every day. I may go a very long time and not see, high school kids participating. I certainly don't see them in the hallways. And so I think that's really important for us at the NFHS is that, we have pictures up of kids in our office. And I think that's important. We never can take our eyes off of the mission and the purpose, which are those young people. And as cliche as it sounds, it's real. We all can get bogged down with things at work or a job. I never really feel like it's a job, but you got to think about the why. And it's those young people. We can look back on ourselves, how our experience was shaped, and again, those people that positively impacted our lives. That's really what motivates me, is that I may not know all the answers about how our coursework impacts people, but I can tell you there's 11.5 million courses that are out there in this world that were created with a lot of thought, a lot of care, and knowing that those courses are out there, again, really trying to make a difference. It's a humbling feeling, and hopefully what that's really doing is planting a lot of seeds within our coaches, within our young people, within our ADs, of how really important, again, that what the work that we all do collectively, and it does take us all, just how important it really is, and how we must continue to push, again, what you're the educational AD, to push that we are unique, we are different, we push the education first, and that should always be the most important thing, and should never, come behind the outcome of a game or a contest or an event.
I guess I should unmute myself. Thanks for sharing that, Dan. That was really great stuff. Um, we're just about out of time, but we've got one more question for you. We always
Okay.
like to end with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. You've had a chance to, work with and work for and probably meet a lot more ADs than I've ever met. But now your task is to send out a brand new high school athletic director to their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. What 3 items are going to go in Dan Schuster's athletic director toolbox?
Yeah, I think the tools are really simple in the sense that you better be listening to what people are. You better listen to your staff, your coaches, your other colleagues. Listening is so critically important to really understand. As an athletic director, you may not be directly the one doing some of the work, and a lot of times you are, but you really need to listen to those around you so you can truly understand where they're coming from, how they're feeling, so that you can relate to them the best of your ability, and truly be, again, that mentor, that helper, that leader. So listening is critically important. I'm a note card guy. Being obviously very much where my job and profession is around electronic communication and electronic education. I'm a believer in note cards, and frankly, I should send them a lot more than I do. But I have a stack of note cards in my office, and of course, being away for several months now, I haven't written very many. Probably should figure out a way to make that happen. I really do this with my staff, and frankly, should probably do it more of the staff. But just let them know when you notice something, positive, because a lot of times, there's discussions of when something happens that may be negative, or something that, comes to your attention. Don't be afraid to put that note card on their, in their mailbox, on their desk. I love that kind of the time. It's sort of a little bit extra time to physically write out a note, and tell them that you appreciate what they're doing, and thanks for their help. My last thing is really, communication. You can't over communicate. You can't. You want to be clear. So I think there's a lot of different, certainly with technology, and we've all had to really do this during COVID, but communicating with parents, communicating with staff, and it's probably going to be a blend of tools, Jake. Maybe it's using your website better, communicating. Twitter is a really fun tool. I think that if you can manage, just like everything else, if you can just use it for a specific purpose, and again, communicate, back to what we said earlier, to pat someone on the back, to highlight some good works that maybe students at your school have been involved with, something that your parents have done. And that could be your website too, but I think social media can be a good outlet for that. But just communicate and thank people, and be appreciative of people and the good work that they do, because that makes your job a whole lot easier. It really allows those relationships to, again, be positive, so that you go to work every day and you love what you do, and and people around you notice that. So anything that you can do to communicate that and highlight that, I think you're going to be much better for it.
Well, those are all great, great tools to have in your toolbox. Dan, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been great talking with you, and I know our listeners have gotten a lot of valuable information.
Well, Jake, I appreciate it, and I really do appreciate you and your message, because as subtle as it is, I mean, the title of your show is the Educational AD, but it just, you know, it's so very important that we talk about being education first, and you truly are an educational AD. So thank you for passing that along, and everything that you do at your local level. I know that you're involved at the state level, and I know you're involved at the national level. Appreciate your leadership, and know that people are watching you and are looking up to you, and thanks for all you do.
Oh, well, gosh, really appreciate it. It means a lot coming from you. To our listeners, thanks as always for tuning in. Come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD.